the activity 2016. Other public officers, the Media House, good morning. As the program suggests, I'm Dave Loader, and I'm social worker and public health specialist by profession. I'm currently assigned at the Health Information Unit of the Ministry of Health and Environment. My permanent secretary, Mrs. Helen Roy, assigned me the task of being the representative for the Ministry of Health on the Central Planning Committee of the Public Service Day 2016. When I attended the first meeting, it was clear that I was the only male around. And so I reminded myself that it's the first meeting, and that the other males, they were either late or they will be showing up at the next meetings. Suffice it to say, I'm still waiting. However, I can proudly report that I have thoroughly enjoyed working with such high levels of estrogen. The camaraderie building just by working on the Central Committee has been commendable. The public service is privileged to have in its rank some of the most formidable women. I found them to be strongly opinionated and grounded in scientific principles and ethical values. Following a meeting in Trinidad and Tobago in 1998, attended by our then Chief Personnel Officer, Mrs. Elizabeth White, the idea of a Public Service Day activity was birthed. Public Service Day was subsequently institutionalized in the year 1999, and it was geared towards three main objectives, which is building camaraderie among public officers, recognizing the contributions of retired officers in the development of the public service, and recognizing excellence in the delivery and performance of services with a view of improving efficiencies and ultimately the administration of public services. This event today, the launching of Public Service Day 2016, summons us public servants to reflect on just how privileged we are to be gainfully employed in the context of a global environment where job seeking has become a common job of its own. For me, I love the fact that I can get a good night's rest, but nothing excites me more than when I wake up in the morning and prepare to head to work. My occupation as a public servant means so much that I allow no one and nothing whatsoever to derail my devotion to my job. It is my livelihood. Thomas Jefferson, an American founding father, puts it this way. He says, "It is neither wealth nor splendor, but tranquility and occupation which gives you happiness." My task this morning in this ceremony is simply to chair. And in doing so, I will endeavor to punctuate the proceedings with some quotes for your own reflection. And the first quote I want to share with us is, number one, the very first step towards success in any occupation is to become interested in it. At this time, let me welcome Mrs. Gloria Joseph, our Chief Personnel Officer, who will welcome and give opening remarks.
Thank you very much, Mr. Loader, one of my former students. Good morning, everyone. I recognize the Honorable Prime Minister and Minister for the Public Service, Dr. Roosevelt Skerrit, the Secretary to the Cabinet, Ambassador Steve Farrell, the Attorney General, Honorable Levi Peter, many of you here who are my colleagues, permanent secretaries, financial secretary, public officers, heads of departments, heads of divisions, other invited guests, staff of the Establishment Personnel and Training Department, members of the Central Planning Committee for Public Service Day, other public officers who are here, and those of you who are viewing via live streaming and listening via the various media houses, Dominicans, ladies and gentlemen, media personnel, good morning. It gives me great pleasure and it is an honor to be able to welcome you here today to the official launch of Public Service Day. The UN General Assembly, in its Resolution 57-277, designated 23rd June as Public Service Day. We in Dominica are launching our Public Service Day one day before the UN's official celebration of Public Service Day. It is a time when we highlight the work of public officers in the development of our country. Public Service Day has been celebrated in Dominica since 1999 and has continued on a biannual basis. The main objectives of Public Service Day are to encourage camaraderie among officers, to allow our officers the opportunity to socialize through sporting activities, hikes, community outreach, and many other activities, to recognize the contributions of retired officers in the development of the public service, to recognize excellence in delivery and performance of services with a view to improving efficiencies and ultimately improving the administration of the public service. In the public service, we are called upon to embark on sustainable service delivery improvement programs by challenging the status quo and taking the public service to a higher level of productivity. To this end, the following are key. Firstly, implementing and strengthening the complaints mechanism system within the public service towards effective implementation of the redress principle. Secondly, supporting the use of ICTs within the public service as an enabler for improved service delivery and reducing the cost of service delivery. Thirdly, quality access to integrated service delivery and citizen engagement and participation. Fourthly, monitor and following up on service delivery challenges towards a better life for all of us, and engagement with various stakeholders, including the private sector, on service delivery matters so as to strengthen the government's efficiency and effectiveness, thus improving citizens' satisfaction level. Our public service continues to face many challenges. Foremost among this is the limitation of resources, limited capacity, and the ever-shifting global, social, economic, and environmental challenges within the landscape. Countries around the world continue to face fiscal challenges, and so it is important for us to exercise our fiscal responsibilities, in effect, to ensure that we are able to survive, we are able to live within our means. With every challenge, there also have been successes in service delivery. Recently, there was a similar launching of a mobile application for the traffic division. The traffic division has replaced its traffic books with mobile devices, thus creating efficiency in the manner in which traffic checks are conducted. The mail registration system recently was introduced in 3 ministries and will be deployed in the coming year in all ministries. The system is fully computerized and the delivery of mail is done via mobile electronic devices. I am also happy to report that individuals wishing to submit an application for consideration for employment within the public service can now do this online. These are just a few of the many initiatives that we have taken on board within the public service with the support of our government and particularly the Minister for the Public Service to ensure that we continue to operate with a level of efficiency and professionalism that the citizens of Dominica so well deserve. As we celebrate the launch of Public Service Day, I encourage each one of you here, public officers, and those of you listening through the various means that have been provided, to continue to excel, primarily to love the job that you do, because it begins with loving your work. If you don't look up, like Dave said this morning, to getting up in the morning and to going to work, not just to earn a daily bread, but to get the satisfaction of feeling that you are making a worthwhile and invaluable contribution to the service of humanity and to the service of state, then it's not worth it at all. So I encourage you, public officers, to continue to work with us to give the very best support that you can give. I will now itemize a list of the activities that we have planned leading to Public Service Day. The launch is today. The Hike 1 happens on June 25th, and so we encourage as many of you who are fit and healthy to participate, and those of you who consider yourself a little bit unfit, we will have the services of the various agencies to ensure that you're safe along the route. The flea market on July 30th, and so we continue to encourage you to bring in your items, not wasted items, not no good items, but good items, whether they're clothing, equipment, little handy things that persons can buy. And this is all in an effort for us to contribute towards those who were adversely affected by the passage of Tropical Storm Erika. Games night is not all about work. What do we learn about all work and? Makes Jack and makes Gila. All right, so Games Night is on August 5th, 2016. We have a cause walk, and the cause walk is to highlight the effects of lupus on our population. It's a disease that many of us don't know much about and have not heard a lot about, but it's a disease that affects many members of our public, and so we want to ensure that we have the cause walk, on September 10th. And then we have a series of educational talks. Educational talk number 1 will be on September 22nd, educational talk number 2 on November 17th, and you will be getting much more information through the intranet on those activities. Sports Day will be on September 23rd, and we are hoping that we can have some matches between the permanent secretaries and the rest of the officers, and hopefully between cabinet and the rest of the officers. Let's see what we can do and who can win. All right, there will be community outreaches where we reach out to the community. One such outreach is on November 4th. Talent Night, a night that we're looking forward to when we see you hit the red carpet stage and you display professional attire and different kinds of things. I'm looking forward to it when I can see the talent put on display. Who knows, I may put on something myself. And then there's the church service on November 28th, and it all culminates with Public Service Award ceremony at the State House. And we do thank His Excellency the President for allowing us to use the State House where we can commemorate the work and the contribution of the many who have retired from the public service. I encourage you to take the opportunity that has been provided to you at heart, and feel free to come to the establishment, personnel and training department. Our officers are ready and willing to respond to your every call. Whether you call or you come in person or you email us or you WhatsApp us, you have all different means to reach us. We're here to serve you. Do enjoy Public Service Day Launch 2016. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Joseph. At the beginning, she said that she taught me at school. When I sat by her at the head table, I reminded her that you taught me well, and I always knew I would sit on a table with you. Yeah. I think one of the concepts that she raised, the issue of service delivery, and just want us to continually reflect on it. Imagine the many persons who come across these huge desks and lovely offices that we have, quite intimidated sometimes. How we deliver that service is quite important and useful for making them feel comfortable. All right, so service delivery, a very key note, point to remember. And then let me just share with you the second reflection. The pleasure in the job, or pleasure in the job, puts perfection in the work. Think about it. At this point, let me invite to speak to us to the overview of activities, Ms. Joanne Commodore, who is the Deputy Registrar. I'm sure, Joanne, that you have much more to tell us about the activities and to make us feel much more excited about it. Thank you.
Good morning, everybody. The Honorable Prime Minister and Minister for the Public Service, Honorable Roosevelt Skerrit, the Secretary to the Cabinet, Mr. Steve Farrell, the Honorable Attorney General, Chief Personnel Officer, Mrs. Gloria Joseph, Chairman of the Public Service Commission, Dr. Damian Dublin, the Financial Secretary, Mrs. Rosamond Edwards, Permanent Secretaries, Heads of Department, Heads of Division, other invited guests, staff of the Establishment Personnel and Training Department, members of the Central Planning Committee for the Public Service Day, other public officers and media, welcome. Good morning, everybody. So I see that an overview has already been given, and if you look at the little yellow bookmark that you've been given, you'll see that it is in chronological order. So it is with great pleasure that I present, I suppose, a second overview. I think it cannot be said too many times, so let's drill it home. The activities to commemorate Public Service Day under the theme, Embracing the Challenge, Rethink, Rebuild, and Transform. Now, as is the custom, this theme came from one of our own here in the public service, and it is very fitting, I think, in the wake of the devastation caused by Tropical Storm Erica. Now, the public service is the driving force behind national development, and so we should be on the forefront of giving hope and should take the lead at the rebuilding efforts. It is incumbent upon all stakeholders to maximize the use of time, effort, and other resources towards the production of goods and services necessary for national prosperity and, in our case, recovery. So this year, the Public Service Day Planning Committee thought that it was a good idea to mix things up again, to mix things up a bit, because we are rethinking, are we not? So I will take you through a list of the activities again, I guess at a slower pace. Let us start with the health thrust that the Ministry of Health has had over the years, especially in educating us about non-communicable chronic diseases such as diabetes. Now, in keeping with this focus on health, 2 hikes have been scheduled. If you look at your schedule, you will see. Now, the first hike, which is going to take place this Saturday, to the Shimel Leta hike from Loda to Grand 4. All the registration forms, I believe, have already been circulated. I hope that everyone has seen it. If you have not seen it, please go to your head of division because it has been circulated. We hope that you will come out in large numbers, not just to walk, but to socialize and for the fresh air and for the exercise. Now, the second hike is set for the 1st of October 2016, and the route will be announced accordingly. We look forward to great participation from public officers. Now, in keeping with this theme of health, there is the usual Sports Day scheduled for September 23rd, 2016. Now, this is definitely carded to be a day of fun, and there will be all-time sick games such as sack race, lime and spoon, 3-legged race, and then you have your more traditional games like rounders and cricket. So it will be, we encourage massive participation. Come have fun, relieve stress, socialize, and showcase your talent in the field of sports. I have found over the years that public servants have many hidden talents. A lot of people can dance and sing and play sports, and we tend to hide it because most of us are stuck behind a desk. So let me encourage you to come out and have fun. I think, as is the custom, an overall winner will be declared and more information on that will be given. Now, it is usual for the service to focus on a worthy cause. And I believe that there are diseases like cancer and, of course, diabetes, which have gotten a lot of press and a lot of attention over the years. This year, I asked them if they could focus on something a little more remote, but just as devastating. And we came up with lupus. The Walk for Lupus will be on the 10th of September 2016. So for those of you who do not know, lupus is an autoimmune disease. It affects mostly women of childbearing age of African descent. So it can attack any organ and cause chronic pain and debilitating physical and emotional alterations. The number of persons being diagnosed is steadily growing because in recent times, they actually have a blood test. The earlier sufferers of lupus were not so fortunate. It was a disease that was diagnosed by omission, meaning that if you didn't have cancer, if you didn't have something else, then they would figure that you had lupus. But we are progressing, and now there is actually a blood test. So the color purple is the color for lupus, and we encourage public officers to show up in large numbers and to wear something purple. It will be a brief one around Roseau, as lupus sufferers are not generally able to cover large distances and they would like to join on the walk. It will also take place in the afternoon due to their inability to tolerate prolonged exposure to the sun. It is also a refreshing departure from the norm, and so we look forward to your support. The Lupus Foundation of Dominica, of which I am a part, I don't have lupus, but I am a member. They are excited and they are grateful, and they look forward to seeing you turn out in large numbers to support their worthy cause. The public service prides itself on bringing out the best in workers, and this includes educating officers on topics of interest and of relevance. To this end, 2 educational talks have been scheduled. The first educational talk will focus on the public service and, very interestingly, on spirituality. And I think this speech will be given by the esteemed Mr. Ray Harris, and it is scheduled for the 22nd of September 2016. Now, the second educational talk is scheduled for November 24th, 2016, and will provide an overview of the much debated and misunderstood general orders. There is much misunderstanding among employees about their rights and privileges, and this talk will certainly be welcomed to clarify and to edify workers. An invitation goes out to all public officers to attend these events. While we have mentioned events that are bound to be fun, like Sports Day, these upcoming events that I'm about to talk about are not only different, as I've never seen one before, at least not in the public service, or perhaps it was before my time. The flea market, which is scheduled for the 30th of July 2016. This is to raise funds for our outreach program set to take place on November 4th, 2016. In regards to the flea market, we are asking public officers to donate anything that is in good condition that can be sold to raise funds. Think of Craigslist and eBay. Everything doesn't have to be brand new, but it could be, the better condition is the more funds that we can attract. And this includes those of you with a green thumb who can donate plants to sell as well. Clothing, electronics, household items, shoes, etc., anything as long as they are in good condition. Like I mentioned earlier, this is to raise funds for our community outreach. It will be no surprise that our community outreach will focus on targeting an area severely affected by Tropical Storm Erica. Kulibistri has been selected for these purposes, and more details will be given accordingly. As a society, we do not give the local products enough credence. Well, your chance to boost the local economy and enrich fellow Dominicans is here. So the craft exhibition is scheduled to take place on the 7th of October 2016, and there will be lovely local arts and crafts on display for perusal and purchase. Now, one of the defining activities is a talent night. This year we have dubbed it Rock the Runway. This fun-filled night will be held at the Arak House of Culture and will include a fashion segment, including various styles, as already mentioned. And the forms are being circulated. Anybody with talent in singing, dancing, and poetry, and anything that is unique, please come forward. I hear that Patsy Cline will be there. So you should be there too. Now, the island's motto is Apwe Bode Selate, and God should always come first. So our church service is planned for the 28th of November 2016 at the Public Service Union building. It is non-denominational, so you are all invited. So please, let's put our various biases aside and come and be blessed. The family that prays together stays together. Now, finally, the crowning moment will be December 11th itself, 2016. Oh, I'm sorry, 2nd. Public Service Day will be observed with the awards and recognition ceremony. And as stated before, it will seek to award public officers at various levels for excellent performances and will honor our retirees. So the success of every event depends on the participation. Public Service is here again, Public Service Day is here again, and none of it can be a success without your support and participation. So please let us come together, let us create lasting bonds, and let us make it a wonderful one. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Joan. Let me invite Ms. Jenny Jackson to do an entertainment.
Good morning, everybody. Oh, I didn't even realize there were so many people. I took you to music. So the name of my song is My Love, My Country, and it was this year's Calypso. So I hope that you enjoy, and I hope that you can sing along and listen to the nice little storyline that flows in between here and there. Take your laugh. Nothing too serious, but I just hope you enjoy. See how teach he tried to convince me. got to go down there, 'cause I really love Dominica. Nowhere else I can compare. If we all go and live hard, tell me how she will prosper. Despite the rise of suicide, more perils on the roadside. I love this country. If I have to suffer, let it be. White over me. I love my country. See that they boy. In the hall, on the streets, rabbit panty rap, and still put me to sleep. Oh my gosh, you can stay right here, study, get your degree. It's happening schools right here in NYC. But my vision is the college and UWI to serve this region till I die. How can I abandon the land that gave me permission? Oh, I got to go down there, so I take it the plane ride, 'cause I still got national pride. Yes, I must go down there, 'cause I really love Dominica. Nowhere else I can compare. If we all go and tell me how she will prosper. Before Christine mess up this one, I must come to sing this one. And I love this country. If I have to suffer, let it be. White Italy, I love our country. Thank you. See that they will.
Thank you very much, Renee. Certainly you were not derailed by the technology. All right? At this moment, we invite Ambassador Steve Farrell, Secretary to the Cabinet, who will give his own remarks to us.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I see some of you are still remembering the board files. Lighten up a bit. Let me recognize Honorable Dr. Roosevelt Scarrett, Prime Minister and Minister for the Public Service, Honorable Levi Peter, Attorney General, Ambassador Nanton, Coordinator of the Citizenship by Investment Unit, our Chairman, Financial Secretary, colleague Permanent Secretaries, and heads of departments, divisions, Mr. Lieutenant General Secretary of Public Service Union, other members of the head table, PS or CPO, I don't know how to call you now, Mrs. Gloria Joseph, Chief Personnel Officer, fellow public officers, Ms. Jackson for this lovely rendition, members of the media, ladies and gentlemen. My simple contribution this morning is to share some reflections on this occasion of the launching of the Public Service Day 2016 under the theme Embracing the Challenge, Rethink, Rebuild, Transform. This theme, I believe, captures the post-ERICA reality shared by all of Dominica, and we all will agree remains a challenge and will be for some time. My most comfortable interpretation, however, is based on the recognition that we are not requested by this theme to start a journey from the scratch. Rethink suggests that we are already thinking. Rebuild suggests that we're already building. Transform suggests that we already have some formation, I hope, and that we are willing to change in form, appearance, and structure. Just a reminder here before your spiritual lecture on public service and the spirit that There's a reminder from St. Paul that in the book of Romans, who recommends that we can be transformed by the conditioning of our minds. I hope when we have this discussion with Ray Harris, we can deliberate a little more on this. I want to pause here, though, to congratulate the Chief Personnel Officer and her team of public officers across departments who are responsible for the organization of today and the activities leading up to another Public Service Week. This team will mean nothing, however, if it does not invoke in us for the coming months a passion and attitude to work that can yield the results that will convert into the best possible delivery of services to our people. This, I must add, can only be achieved through hard work, focused on performing at the highest quality, efficiency, and consistency the jobs assigned to us. There are no shortcuts. The work ethic is by far our main contribution to our personal development and to that of our Commonwealth of Dominica. Public Service Day is the day that we honor those among us who have done just that. I want to thank and encourage every public officer who has and continue to give outstanding service to the government and people of Dominica. Events like these call also for very sincere examination of our conscience to assess just how high we as individuals rank in this ladder of performance and service delivery. In our challenging and competitive post-ERICA environment, productivity and efficiency in every area of public service is key if Dominica is to remain on the path to economic growth and to achieving a better quality of life for every national. We need to also remember that we as public servants are in positions of trust and are under the obligation to set the stage for national development. In other words, there are people relying on us and our services in every corner of this island, in a number of strategic areas of their lives, including health, education, and social services. This is why I'm again appealing to you all and to all of us to continue to take your work and task seriously. I have one moment in the immediate aftermath of Tropical Storm Erika, which to me demonstrated the public service system at its highest and most productive point, and confirmed my hope that we can, in fact, deliver. From the moment we were hit by the storm, the Honorable Prime Minister triggered the disaster management plan. No sooner all executives and agencies began to mobilize. There were clear responsibilities for the response and recovery phases. Some of the main personalities and groupings included the Honorable Prime Minister as head, Cabinet Ministers, Secretary to Cabinet, Committee of Permanent Secretaries, Security Forces, National Emergency Operating Center, and the groups represented therein. A number of strategic groups, including logistics, communication, radio, and utilities, were part of that process. I watched in amazement when people would show up and would be given the available tasks and responsibilities that they were best suited for. Because the responsibilities were well defined, they were able to carry out these responsibilities until the officials who were best qualified were available to man the various desks. In no time, the control center was fully operational and served with efficiency and precision. I recall one outstanding intervention which the coordinator for transport made in my presence. He was asked to provide transportation for a team to go to the southeast of the island. He was able to answer in confidence, saying, "I could get you there by helicopter." And he gave times of departure and return for the schedules of the day. or by boat, he said, given the same schedule of the boats, or via ground transportation, and gave the times of departure, including areas of delay where work was done, it was seamless, and all the information came from a written script. The operation center was manned, always manned. Timely reports were available. The Committee of Permanent Secretaries and other officials met every day after 4 to be briefed, to report on areas falling under the ministries and portfolio. As a result of this clear reporting framework, information from officials could reach the Prime Minister in real time, and decisions and policies sent down the line had that same precision. Because of a system of reporting and accountability, the nation could receive updates from every sector and from selected officials every night. People were informed and those affected were served promptly. Fellow public officers, I took you on that journey not to remind you of the bad of the storm, but to highlight that with proper work ethics and attitude that today's theme calls for, we can in fact deliver much better than we do today. The conversations between the permanent secretaries and ministers, not because the storm is over, must be on the reports on policy implementation and on sound policy advice. The conversation between the PS, heads of division, must be on policy priorities of the ministry based on the strategic objectives of the said division. The conversation of supervisors of sections and units within the division must be on the function of that unit based on the plans of the division. And the conversation between officials and their supervisors should follow suit and should include the priority areas of the ministry. This is the approach that is the ultimate track on which ministries can reach the goals and which was proven in the aftermath of Hurricane Erika. Government priorities to improve the quality of service and the quality of life of our people should always be the focus of an efficient public officer. This, I submit, is how we truly embrace the challenge, how we rethink, how we rebuild, how we transform. It is only by positive change and constant improvement in our work and our attitudes towards work. I thank you for listening.
Thank you very much. I invite you to reflect that as public servants, we need to associate with people that inspire us, people that challenge you to rise higher, people that make you better. Don't waste your valuable time with people that are not adding to your growth. Your destiny is too important. On this note, it gives me distinct pleasure to invite to speak to us the Honorable Prime Minister and Minister for the Public Service, Dr. Roosevelt Skerrit.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Let me first of all recognize in our presence the Honorable Attorney General, the Secretary to the Cabinet, the Financial Secretary, the Chief Personnel Officer, other permanent secretaries, the Chief Elections Officer. We also have the General Secretary of the Dominica Public Service Union. I will say I want to thank Mr. Stephen George, who prayed on our behalf this morning, and Ms. Joseph, who sang the national anthem on our behalf. Heads of departments, other distinguished guests, representatives of the media, ladies and gentlemen. Is this working? No? That's right. I want to, I think I'm a little bit taller than most. So. All right, thank you. I want to thank you for inviting me to be part of the official launch of the public service activities. and it is my distinct pleasure as the Minister for the Public Service to address you on the launch of celebrations to mark the observance of Public Service Day 2016. This is an occasion when the achievements of the public service are highlighted and culminates with an award to our retirees and other high achievers in the public service. The public service, as we know, is a dynamic and integral part of the government in nation building. This year has been a challenging year for the government and people of Dominica as we build and rebound from the tropical storm Erica. Each and every one of us has been impacted in one way or the other by the storm, but as a resilient people, we will, with our faith in God, our creativity and love, rebuild this beautiful country of ours together. The effects of the massive destruction to our infrastructure, livelihoods, and the tragical loss of lives as a result of the passage of Tropical Storm Erica will continue to affect us for some time. The relocation of entire villages as a result of disaster has never been done before in our country. So this has been and still is a challenge for government. Our friends in the region and internationally, despite their own economic problems, have come to Dominica's aid in a massive show of support, whether through providing technical assistance, supplies, or financially. We continue as a nation to be thankful and grateful to all of them. The effects of climate change on small island developing states like ours can and have posed multifaceted challenges to our fragile economies. We have seen quite vividly that it takes just one major event to erode significantly the base of our GDP. I must hasten to say that Dominica's response to these challenges has so far been encouraging, and our citizenry have been supportive and patient in our efforts at rehabilitation and reconstruction. I know at times it may seem that we are not achieving as much as we would like to within the time frame that people expect us to. But we must understand that when a small country like ours, with the kind of topography that we have, suffers destruction of such magnitude, reconstruction and rehabilitation cannot be done overnight. The revenue of the state, even before the storm, is always inadequate to maintain the state. And if we were not able to significantly raise grants, the country would have had great difficulty in addressing the many needs and demands of its citizenry. So we have to appreciate the efforts of the public service in addressing the challenges of the country. But amidst all of our rebuilding efforts, we cannot lose sight of the many public officers who are dedicated and committed to working every day to keep the wheels of government turning to produce the results that we desire. I speak of those who, in carrying out their daily task, exemplify the principles of industry, hard work, excellence, and a true spirit of patriotism and national pride. The opportunity exists for all of us to excel and to transform our country into something better and grander than we had before. And I encourage all of you to take up the challenge and responsibility. Public Service Day provides an avenue for us to salute top producers within the public service. But it is also an occasion for those who have been less than efficient and prolific to examine themselves and their commitment and ask themselves, could I be doing better? We must treat the public service, or the public rather, with respect and pleasantness at all times, irrespective of who that person may be. And I believe it is in the Gospel of Luke where we are reminded that we must treat each other as we would like them to treat us. Persons in the public service should not take their employment for granted. In several sister states, retrenchment among public officers has been among options employed in grappling with the challenges of the global economic recession. I would like to use this opportunity to appeal to all public officers to be mindful of the need to offer quality service to members of the public whose interests we are committed to serving. We do need, as public service, to be ever conscious of the need to improve upon the quality of service that we dispense to everyone that we encounter during the course of the working day, no matter who they might be. The public sector is the driving force of national development. Hence, the contribution of the public service is vital for the implementation and achievement of government's plans and programs. I wish, therefore, to congratulate the organizers on the selection of the theme, Embracing the Challenge, Rethink, Rebuild, Transform. Indeed, you could not have selected a more appropriate theme. This is in keeping with government's vision of building back better. You can do your part to transform our island with creativity, innovation, and determination. While we remain undaunted by the social, economic, fiscal, and other challenges that confront us on a daily basis, we must resolve to rebuild together and transform the place that we all call home into a better Dominica for us, for our visitors, and for succeeding generations. Despite the fact that many of you lost your homes and family members, your spirits remained unbroken. In the aftermath of the storm, many of you assisted in areas where your services were required, volunteering your time to support the needy and discouraged. Many of you reported diligently for work, despite the fact that you suffered the inconveniences of daily commute and absence of essential services like water and electricity. I wish to place on record my profound gratitude to all of you for the sacrifices you have made and continue to make. May the good Lord continue to bless and reward your efforts. The theme for this year's observance of Public Service Day, Embracing the Challenge, Rethink, Rebuild, Transform, brings into focus the need for effective public sector transformation. Much of the transformation currently taking place in the public service is geared at modernizing public service delivery. The 2014-2018 Growth and Social Protection Strategy highlights the need for the public sector to continue to be a significant contributor to Dominica's socio-economic development. Currently, the public sector contributes approximately 20% of GDP annually. The strategy is to enhance the business and investment climate through the development and implementation of sustainable projects and programs. In this regard, harnessing the organs of public-private partnership and commitment towards excellence in service delivery are critical for successful advancement of the proposed initiatives. Government remains unrelenting in its resolve to provide necessary resources for the creation of the enabling environment. It is incumbent, therefore, on the public service to respond in an efficient and effective manner. My advice also to all of you is that you should read the laws of Dominica and laws specifically relating to the administration of the public service, the Finance Administration Act and the Procurement Act, also the Constitution of Dominica to familiarize yourself about your responsibilities, duties, and requirements. May God continue to bless the work of all public officers as we work towards building a more just, a more prosperous, and a more peaceful Dominica. Before I leave, I want to say one thing to you as public officers and the country as a whole. There are different levels within the public service, and therefore different responsibilities, but all are interconnected, because it is one service. So whether you're the clerk or you're the permanent secretary, there's a line of responsibilities, and all must work together for the proper functioning of that particular ministry or department of government. If you are working in a particular department, and that department comes under public scrutiny or criticism, I believe it is your responsibility and duty to take it personal. You cannot pass the buck to somebody else. If you're a school teacher and parents are complaining that in that particular class, the students are not doing well, or the teacher is not coming to school regularly, it is unreasonable to blame the Minister for Education, or in most cases, the Prime Minister. If the state has entered into a contract to engage in vegetation management, that is to say, cutting the grass on the side of the road, and in that contract, 1, to cut the grass, and 2, to dispose of the grass, and that person is not properly effecting the contract, then who should we hold accountable? So my point is that most times there is criticism of the delivery of services by the state. We find sometimes that even those of us who have been charged with the delivery of that very same service are blaming on somebody else. And to me, as a citizen, not as Prime Minister, as a citizen, it is mind-boggling. Because as the Prime Minister, my responsibility is to ensure that we have the resources to dispense our responsibilities. And if it is not a resource issue, and it's a matter of delivery of that service or implementation of government's policy, then who should be held accountable and responsible? So it is not only the Prime Minister and the Cabinet of Ministers who have to be accountable, every one of us, because we're employees, not employers. We're employees of the taxpayers of the country. And every citizen has a right to criticize and to ask questions and clarifications. Always has to be done with mutual respect, yes. And we have to take ownership. Each one of us must take ownership of our responsibilities and duties. Because if you don't get paid, then you'll go to Mr. Layton and say, look, I haven't got any pay, let's strike. So if you're being paid to do a task, whether we agree with the remuneration or not at that particular juncture, we have to take responsibility for our duties. Because at the end of the day, this country does not belong to me alone, let's say the Prime Minister. It belongs to all of us. And I do not have a helicopter to avoid the potholes, so I do drive on the potholes myself. So it affects everybody. And if we have the responsibility to effect those works, then we have to effect it. You know, every one of us has a right under the Constitution to decide our religious persuasion, and likewise our political persuasion. And therefore, you have a right to support the party in government or the party in opposition. But that should never be a consideration in your attitude to work or your attitude to the citizens of the country. You must be blinded by this. And I find too many people in the country allow their political persuasion to be the deciding factor as to how they deliver services to the public. Each one of us, you're not going to be answerable to me as the Prime Minister. The ultimate person we have to answer to is when Jesus Christ returns to earth. And irrespective of your religion, you have to answer. So I put it to you in your own introspection, individually and collectively, to ask yourselves, am I being a diligent public officer? Am I being respectful? Am I fulfilling my mandate without affection or an ill will? Let's reflect upon these things. And if we do reflect upon it, what would be the response of the Almighty Father in guiding us? Because we all have dreams and visions and so forth. So ask the good Lord to give you a dream and a vision during your introspection and to guide you accordingly. And I remind you again of the teachings of the Gospel of Luke, which says, treat others as you like them to treat you. And you're delivering this service, one day you shall be receiving that service. And what you sow is what you shall reap. So never believe that you're undermining the government when you do not deliver your responsibilities properly. Never believe so. You are undermining your responsibility as a Christian, and you're undermining your responsibility according to the laws of the land. May God bless you and keep you. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I'm sure that all those here would say with me that the minister's admonition was graceful, reasonable, and reasoned. Thank you. At this time, we will have an entertainment by our public service choir. Let's put our hands together and invite them to come. Just to inform you that PM has urgent matters to deal with and he has asked to be excused. So let's stand and see the PM leave. Thank you very much, Mr. Prime Minister. You want to shift it? That's better? Shift it a little more. Yeah? That's good.
From a distance. No bombs and no disease, no hungry mouths to feed. From a distance, we are instruments, marching in a common band, playing songs of hope, playing songs of peace. They're the songs of every man. God is watching us. God is watching us. God is watching us from a distance. From a distance, you look like my friend, even though we are at war. From a distance, I just cannot comprehend what all this fight is for. From a distance, there is harmony, and it echoes through the land. And it's the hope of hopes, it's the love of loves, it's the heart of every man. And it's the hope of hopes, it's the love of loves. This is the song of every man. And God is watching us. God is watching us. God is watching us from distance. Oh, God is watching us. God is watching. God is watching us from a distance.
Can we put our hands together for them? From a distance, your voice was reassuring. And from a distance, you look lovely. Thank you so much. Well, at this time, we're coming to the end of our program, and let me invite Mrs. Carrie Barron, who will do our administrative officer, and she will do the vote of thanks.